Hey guys, it's Mrs. Daniel, and I'm so sorry today was so difficult with the internet. So I'm going to give you your notes via tape, okay? And that way you can slow down, you can stop it, you can get caught up, and you can learn today's lesson. And then, of course, I'll always help you with questions via email or if you come to my tutoring. Basically today what we were supposed to learn is how we turn fractions into decimals. And there's just a little bit of vocabulary that we didn't get to go over that I want you to write in your notes. So I'm going to start with vocabulary, okay, just as a little piece of our notes right here. And then there's 3 words that we're going to learn, okay? The first one is called terminating, like the Terminator. He was in a movie, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator. But this is going to be a terminating decimal. And what that means is that it stops, okay? It completely stops and it ends. For example, if I were to take my fraction 1/2 and I were to turn it into a decimal, and I would use division, and I can show you that division in our notes down at the bottom, it would come up to this decimal 0.5, and this 5 would be the last number. And so that means that it stops or ends. So 1/2 converts or changes into a terminating decimal, okay? Now, there's another kind of decimal, and it's called repeating decimal. Okay, and that's, those of us that were in class, that's what we kind of saw a little bit when we were doing one of our division problems. And basically what it means is it never stops. When you're dividing, you're going to see a pattern, and it's going to go over and over and over again, okay? And we saw that today when we saw that we had decimal 8, 3, and then we put this bar on top, okay? And that bar means that really this is supposed to look like 8 or decimal 8, 3, 3, 3, 3, and it never, ever, ever, ever stops, okay? And then the final word I'm going to use here is bar notation, just to clarify that. And the bar notation, it shows the part that repeats. Shows part that repeats. So for example, notice I only put the bar on top of the 3 right here. The 8 does not repeat. It's only the 3s that repeat. So the bar does not go over both the 8 and the 3. It goes over just the 3 to say that this number is going to continue forever with just the 3. So in today's lesson, we are supposed to learn about 2 types of decimals that you convert from the fraction. And one is terminating, meaning it stops. And one is repeating, meaning it never stops, okay? Okay, so let's draw a line right here, and let's start the next part of our notes, okay? I'm going to start with the 1/2. I'm going to take an example of 1/2, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn 1/2 into a decimal using mathematics, okay? Now, this one does not use place value. I'm actually going to talk about that one at the end. This one is going to use division, and this is what we were talking about the other day when you take your fraction and you rotate it this way. Okay, it's like somebody kicks it over and you rotate it. And what I'm going to say is I have 1 divided by 2. Okay, 1 divided by 2. Another way to write this is to say 1 divided by 2. And they both are going to give you this long division problem. Okay, and it represents the fraction 1/2 like we talked about up here. So I know that 2 cannot go into 1. So I put a little X there, and it's like I have nowhere else to go. But what we learn in mathematics is you will add a decimal point and bring it straight up, and then you can add as many zeros as you want, because this is still 1. If we put a decimal 0 behind it, it does not change its value. However, it does change the way it looks. So now I can make this look like a 10. Well, 2 can go into 10. It can go 5 times, and 5 times 2 is 10, with a remainder of 0. So again, 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. There is no remainder, there is no number, and that's why this one again is called terminating. Terminating. Okay, let's try another example. Let's take 5/6. 5/6 is the same thing as saying 5 divided by 6, which is the same thing as saying 5 divided by 6. Okay? Now, 6 can't go into 5. That's a problem. So if I put an X there, you're more than welcome to put a 0. And I'm going to bring up my decimal point and add my 0. So now I have what looks like 50, but it's really only the number 5. Now 6 can go into 50. If you're not sure how many times, you've got to be able to do your skip counting or your multiples. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54. And I get to stop here because I can't go over 50. So it's got to be this 48. And I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 8. 8 times 6 is 48. And I subtract, and I get a 2. So I'm going to keep adding. Anytime there's a number here, we keep adding a 0. And I'm going to say, how many times does 6 go into 20? How many 6s live in 20? And I'm going to look up here, and the closest one is 18 because 24 goes over. And that is 1, 2, 3. So I put a 3 above this 0, and 3 times 6 is 18. And I subtract, and I get a 2 again. I see a pattern here. It looks like I'm just going to keep getting 20 over and over again, which means the result is always going to be this 3. So up here where I left this blank, it's the fraction 5/6. And it is known to be repeating. And I put the bar notation only above the 3 because the 8 did not repeat. The 8 only occurred one time. It's the 3 where I begin to see the pattern of 20 and 20 and 20. And so I know I can stop here and just use the bar to tell the reader it continues to go. So this is how we convert fractions by using division. The division method always works. And I'm going to draw a bar here, okay? So again, our goal today was to get from 1/2 to the decimal 5/10, to take the fraction 5/6 and turn it into the decimal 83/100ths where the 3 is repeating. But sometimes you don't have to divide. And we use something called place value. And this is what we did in class at the very, very beginning of our discussion. Okay? And place value is nice when it works. But what we have to understand is most of the time it probably will not work. For it to work, you have to have either the tenths, the hundredths, pardon me to write that down, and then the thousandths. Okay, this might be a good time to pause the video to make sure you have everything written down. No, here goes the ones. Your fractions have to end or have a denominator of tenths, hundredths, or thousandths to be able to use place value. So for example, I could say 3/10. If I give you the fraction 3/10, then I know that I'm going to have decimal 3 because that 3 is in the 10th position, and you may put a 0 in front. So I use my place value of tenths. I could also say, let's do 21/100ths. Hundredths. Well, because it has the 100 at the bottom, I can use place value. 0.21. This is in the hundredths position. I could also do 7 hundredths. 7 hundredths. Now this one, you have to be careful because you have to put the 7 in the hundredths position. And since there's no other number, you're required to put a 0 right here. So 7 hundredths looks like decimal 07. So place value you can only use if those denominators match the words tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. So your job today is to take these different fractions and convert them into decimals. I want you to understand that the division works every single time. The division will even work on your place value problems. You could divide these out like you did up here, and you would get these answers. So if you're not comfortable with using place value, you don't have to. It's a shortcut. The division method is a must. We must be able to get from 1/2 to 5/10. You must be able to get from 5/6 to 83 hundredths where the 3 repeats using the process of long division. Okay? Again, if you have questions, feel free to email me, okay? Or you can come to my tutoring session. Please go in and try the quiz after you have completed these notes on how do I convert fractions to decimals. And the answer is through division or through using place value. Bye, guys. Take care.